ladies and gamers, and welcome to a Wacky Whelmed experience. My name is Splinter, and today I have a special one for you. This video is about Season 1 of Young Justice. For those of you that need background, Young Justice is an animated kids show that came out in 2010. It ran only for 2 seasons only to get cancelled due to toy sales. A lot of people thought it was going to end, until the DC streaming app came about. Then the app died as well, and it seemed that Young Justice wouldn't get the chance to live once again, only to then get revived once again on HBO Max, giving them their 4th season. So what is the show about? The show is about young heroes working together to take down whatever needs to be taken down, which is usually the light. So how will this video work? Simple answer. I will be going over the episodes one at a time. There will be a summary of each episode, then a breakdown afterwards. After going over the episodes, I talk about the overall story, then after talking about that, each notable character from the show. Then I will end the video for closing thoughts. However, this video will be a bit different. 1, I've tried to cut out the fat. 2, I've made sure that I have better points. A lot of my points in my Arkham Origins video don't seem to stick and don't seem to hold up, so I showed a lot of my points to certain people to test the waters to see what sticks. 3, I noticed that a lot of my jokes came from the script rather than the ending, so I made sure to do the opposite. Some are less than a second long, and it took a lot of influence from Pyro and Red Shell. Do not fear, this doesn't consume the video, it just adds flavor to it. And finally, the 4th thing is that I will be doing something called footnotes throughout the video, in which I cut into the video to add something that I found in editing. That's all that needs to be said. If you want to join my Discord and comments, open for debate, like always. Enjoy a Wacky Whelmed experience. Episode 1, Independence Day. Summary. We start off with each sidekick, Robin, Aqualad, Speedy, and Kid Flash, taking down each ice-related villain, all the sidekicks saying, "Today's the day," repeating over and over again. So there's a clear importance for each character over this. After every villain is taken down, we see what they're talking about, the Hall of Justice, then the intro plays. Kid Flash mentions that all the sidekicks are in one place at the same time, and Speedy responds, "We're not sidekicks, not after today." Footnote, I'll be calling them sidekicks for now, but later on I'll give you a more appropriate name and I'll explain why. Batman then brings up the coincidence of ice villains all attacking at the same time. This will be important for the future. We're shown through Speedy's lecture that the League didn't even give them full-time Justice League privileges. Speedy, in frustration, quits working with the others and starts to work on his own. We then receive a call from Superman telling us that Cadmus's building is on fire, but is interrupted by Zatara basically telling us that it's a bigger threat. Batman and the others tell the sidekicks to stay put. Green Martian briefly mentions a character that will be coming later down the line. Robin hacks and finds out what happened to Cadmus over a fire-related issue. God, don't you hate it when you burn down a building and people are inside? And people actually want to put out the fire? Sigh. They don't even understand art. Sidekicks decide to go after the Cadmus fire. They help, but also rush ahead without a plan. Again, this will be important later on. They sneak in to see a brief glimpse of somebody. So they investigate to find that the building has more than 2 floors. The sidekicks stumble upon a creature. We snap to a doctor working on something when the Guardian interrupts to tell the doctor that they know that there are intruders. The doctor uses some type of mind control on him. We see that the intruders find a lab area holding many creatures. Guardian enters the scene trying to stop them, but escapes barely to continue to go on to find KR. And so they find it. Or should I say, him. They find out this is a Superman clone, but on the other hand, they are pinned in that room, with no hope. The sidekicks decide to set Superboy free, only to get their ass beat, pretty much, and letting the bad guys in. Then, the episode ends. Okay, there's a lot to talk about for our first episode. Breakdown. Where do I start? So first, I love the way that they introduce the Hall of Justice. There's a slow reveal as showing the hall in a bigger, larger than life way. This is also a perfect way to understand the importance of the hall. So let's talk about the "well, that makes no sense" line. This is actually pretty important. If you aren't aware, later down the line in Season 3, people will complain about the humor, when in reality it's kind of always been there. Another example of this is the "Whelm" line. This line is brought up in the entire show in every season, with at least saying it 3 times per season. So with this knowledge, we can fairly say that comedy is in the show's veins. Like I said, it's always been there. The only reason this criticism exists is that it's not trying to hide it in the third season. I have many, and I mean many, issues with Season 3. And we will get to that. We will get to that. But this criticism against Season 3 doesn't make much sense. Now it's time to talk about our boy, Roy. Roy's given a ton of depth in personality than anybody else in this episode. And he's barely in this episode. So to start off with, Roy's anger makes sense, but not at the beginning. Mostly because of the twist. But besides the twist, right off the bat, with the line, "We're not sidekicks anymore," we instantly know what his character is about. He wants to be in the Justice League member, and anything lower than that is not showing him respect. This causes him great anger and proceeds for him to leave. Even though at first it seems he's whiny, he speaks a lot of truth. How the Justice League have an actual headquarters in space and not telling anyone about it. Thinking about it more, it seems pretty unfair, having them as sidekicks for God knows how long, only to have them not get the real deal. It's kind of fucked up, and I would be frustrated too. So to jump to the conclusion that he quits makes sense, and this is a good character moment. This idea helps the character. He's making choices and big actions. While this is a fairly niche of a character description, it's more than the other characters. It's just slightly more than the main three, due to the main actions that he's being taken are so big, leading to the more depth in about said position. But here's the problem. So while there is a lot told about this character, we don't have time to connect with the impact of him quitting. Thinking about it through the viewer's eyes that have no idea who Speedy is, they see him quit in less than a few minutes and go, okay, that dude's gone, I guess. Personally, I would love to have Speedy in the first few episodes, then he quits. That way he has more of an impact. The impact isn't really there. And if the argument is that he's personally been involved in the comics, then, well, that's a whole different animal, which we'll go over later. Another recurring thing is the lack of teamwork. It's to be expected from a team-based show. This goes from poor at the start to good at the end. Oldest trick in the book. Not bad though. The only holes in the story is the annoying fact that Robin can just hack into anything everywhere. He could probably hack a toaster with that thing, but other than that, the plot is airtight. Good first episode, strong characters and immediate conflict that pulls you in. A lot of hanging threads as well. That's good for a first episode. Episode 2, Fireworks. Summary. We pick off where we left off, with the sidekicks being taken capture. The Doctor asks the Light what he should do about the situation. The Light response is to make clones and kill the originals. We see that Superboy is watching over the sidekicks. The Doctor is frustrated with this decision, and yet again uses mind control on the Guardian. The sidekicks mention that Superboy hasn't seen the things that he was taught. He then says that his purpose is to replace Superman for the Light. After being told to walk back to his pod, Aqualad convinces him to free them. While escaping, they realize that Footnote. The way they lose to Superboy makes no sense. Desmond could easily just use his mind control creatures to mind control Superboy. And what are they thinking? Why did they just all run up to him? None of you have super strength, so why would you go hand-to-hand combat with him? Superboy can't fly, Skippy. Superboy hears a voice that helps him. This is revealed to be the creator that seemed in charge of the Xenomorphs. He started the fire, weird twist, but okay, and just when you think you're done, Desmond, the Doctor, takes a serum that turns him into a monster? Because I've never seen that one before. They beat the monster and Superboy sees the moon and Superman for the first time. Superman is not the happiest, neither are the mentors. But once confronted, they stand up for themselves. Because of this, they become a new team for the more quiet missions that the Justice League can't do. They are introduced to Miss Martian, and I won't talk about her until next episode. The closing note is that the Guardian is taking over Cadmus, and the Light are not happy with this, but keep their cool. This was a pretty good follow-up. But first, how can Superboy overhear Aqualad through multiple walls when Aqualad is whispering? It's fine that if he has that ability, but the rest of the show has to keep this in mind. Another thing worth talking about is the twist. Because, oh my god, there is a lot of them. There is a lot of things that happens in this episode twist-wise. How Superboy came about. Him turning good, Superboy not being able to fly, Dubelex helping the heroes, Robin hacking the motion sensors, Dubelex setting the fire to lure the sidekicks in the first place, Dubelex basically led the revolution of sorts for the genomes, and Desmond turning into a giant monster. And the final one being that the sidekicks will have their own team and move on from their mentors. After saying all that, it sounds like a mess. However, it's quite the opposite. It's broken up into pieces with... Footnote, there is no way they would survive this collapse. Sure, Superboy, but Kid Flash and Robin wouldn't make it. They didn't even try to use Aqualad's shield to protect themselves. And I hate the fact that this show keeps forgetting that Kid Flash has super speed. The action, giving breathing room for the twist. The second to last few, however, not so much, but considering this is the climax of the episode, it's not a big deal. The other big thing worth mentioning is the light. The light is actually a big thing for this show, and dare I call it the centerpiece. Well, except for seasons 3 and 4, which funny enough is one of its issues. The light being this set of shadow figures that is nearly every antagonist of most of the episodes. Which is a good idea, considering how this show has multiple characters, so having more villains balances it out. This also means the threat level is high. It's also one thing to go against one villain versus multiple villains working together. I'll also talk about more about the light as the show goes on. Last thing to mention is after them becoming their own in their own bigger team and moving away from their mentors makes them sidekicks no more. They become something better. True heroes. They become the second generation. So I will be referring to them as such. Episode 3. Welcome to Happy Harbor. Summary. We start off with the second generation asking Speedy if he wants to join the team. Speedy says no, still believing that it's a way to keep them entertained instead of actually giving them the real deal, a spot on the Justice League. We get a taste of things yet to come with the introduction of the bioship and a quick conflict between Superboy and Miss Martian, and Miss invading people's minds.
Man, I don't know what to think no more, man.
Okay, let's do de-escalate. Always best with your
Get out of here.
Footnote, we know that Miss Martian and the Martian people have American television, meaning this miscommunication doesn't make any sense. We also see that Wally is crushing on Miss Martian. Ew. The second generation take the ship for a spin for Mr. Twister in their path. They try and take him down, but fail miserably. When Miss Martian checks his brain, she notices that he's not organic, leading her to believe that this is Red Tornado. This obviously isn't the case and leads everybody to not believing Miss Martian anymore. Their next confrontation with Twister, Miss Martian comes up with a plan to pretend to be Red Tornado and to think Red Tornado is vulnerable, then spring a surprise attack. This ends up working. It seems the owner isn't mad as a result. Then we have a closing scene with Red and the second generation, with the ending being Superboy's apology. Boom, bang, boom. Breakdown. This episode is alright. A good chunk of the episode is set up as an intro for the rest of the series, which isn't bad, but isn't the most impactful. We also find to see new characters being used, Miss Martian and Superboy. Superboy is a super straightforward character. He just charges at stuff and is angry all the time. And for the good part of the season, he's like that and kind of set in stone. But obviously there's quite a bit of room for development in that. I believe that the show for the most part does this well. We'll talk more about him when his arc gets going. Miss Martian is good. I mean, the whole episode is about that, to her making cookies to think Twister is Red Tornado, which is weird for a character that is 40 years old, but we'll get to that. Her thinking that Twister is red is a bit confusing for me. From a plot cliche perspective, it makes sense. We've seen that from other media, but how? Red tornadoes are red, hence the name, so did he dye it? Question mark, is it like food coloring? So from a plot standpoint, the confusion makes sense, but not from a logical standpoint. Like I've mentioned here, the team not working together yet again appears here. This is one of the reasons why Season 1 works as a team show. It's not like it's just particular to this episode, this is nearly in every episode. Just because they all work together at the end, a part of this episode does not mean this problem suddenly disappears. Yet again, it's part of the foundation of the show. One thing that doesn't make sense, however, is how does Twister know that Red Tornado will show up? Does he know his location? And what did you learn exactly, other than the second generation doesn't work well together? I don't know. It seems like the plot just wanted them to have to fight with little reason why. Also, Speedy is awesome in this show. I love how they make him into a lone hero. But I still wish we had more time with the team, however. Overall, above average episode, not many problems, but the show is only getting started. Episode 4, Drop Zone, Summary. This is the one that I rant about. Oh my god, this is going to be so much fun. We start off with Santa Prisca, where Cobra has taken in Bane and forces him to fight with the Venom he so much is in love with. He's put off against some scrawny kid that once injected is huge. So, With that, he beats Bane. Batman sends the second generation to Santa Prisca for a covert mission, but we all know how that's gonna go. Surely enough, Kid Flash gets himself caught. They take care of the bad guy and ties him up. Then the team fights over themselves, arguing who should be leader. Bane suggests playing along and using them. Superboy overhears this, then Bane offers to help them. They get to the factory to find out Cobra is producing a new type of venom that's way worse. They also find out that Sportsmaster is buying this material. Comms go down and action ensues, leading them to retreat. Then, once again, they start arguing about the leader. Once everybody agrees that Aqualad is the leader, Aqualad knows that Robin can be the leader, but not yet. So the second generation goes for the second round, and it's all going well until Robin tries to fight Cobra and Sportsmaster takes Miss Martian captive. Sportsmaster tries to leave, but plants an explosion on the helicopter, and it stops him. And Cobra escapes as well into the jungle. Keep this in mind, I'll touch upon this later. Once again, the Light understands, but still is annoyed by the second generation as they get away. Once they're back, Batman lectures them only for a little bit, then compliments them at the end. Okay, there's a few things to talk about. How did Bane get out? The first scene of the episode shows that Bane is trapped and forced to fight with the skinny guy. But in the next scene, we see him outside the factory. So what happened? It's not like he was working with Cobra because that's never revealed. So yet again, the team isn't working together. So again, this makes sense. They aren't used to working together as a group before. Here, they actually choose a leader making this progress. Gonna move on since I've talked about this before. Oh goody, these next few problems will make your head spin. The blood will be pumping for sure. Alright, so let's go. Remember the shootout where they got between in the crossfire? In the next scene, they're sneaking around into the factory. So my question is, how did they not hear the gunfire and not get them caught? By the look of it, it doesn't seem that secure. And later on, they do the deal anyway. So either A, they didn't know that they had intruders, and in that case, why not? There was gunfire and you had Bane on the loose, a guy that wants new Venom to himself. Or B, they knew and did nothing. Wouldn't that call for the deal to be off? Because for all they know, whoever they're shooting at or shooting could be on Sportsmaster's side. While we're at it, how did Robin sabotage the helicopter exactly? So what did he sabotage exactly? The main control, the fuel, the propellers, etc.? Because I guess whatever it did could be fixed because it flies later on in the episode. The important part about this problem is that it's all off screen. The helicopter sabotage and it being fixed are all off screen. All you had to do to solve this problem is to have a few seconds of Robin sabotaging the helicopter and Sportsmaster fixing it. It's that simple. But let's face it, the reason why the guys are stuck on this island is because the plot needed them to. Oh, we're still not done yet, buddy. Bane's plan is weird. He forces them into a situation where they have to stop the Cobra members, and if the second generation got killed, the Justice League would stop the Cobra gang. The flaw here is that if the Justice League did show up, there is no way that they would hand the factory to Bane without taking it over. And we know that the Justice League can interfere. This is where it falls apart.
If the Justice League needs to intervene, it will.
So this brings a whole new problem. At the end of the episode, Sportsmaster and Cobra disappear into the jungle. But how the fuck would they get off the island? All you need to do is to have multiple Justice League members post around the island and you can stop them. Because that island is tiny as fuck. Meaning you can see a helicopter coming out or in from a mile away. It doesn't even look like there are any docks on this island. So how would you escape? And the show afterwards doesn't even care to explain what happened. Did they search the island? Don't know. Did they find them? Don't know. Did they even bother looking at all? Don't know. Did they even escape? Don't fucking know. This episode is by far the worst. The team stuff is good, but everything around it doesn't make any sense. Episode 5. Schooled. Summary. A bridge is about to collapse, and the closest heroes are Superman and Superboy. Superboy tries to help and open up with Superman, but Superman shuts him down. Batman mentions that Superman and him need to talk. Back at base, Superboy gets his ass kicked by Black Canary. After Batman tells our group of heroes they just took down Amazo, that took them 4 hours. The Justice League split up into 2 parts. They are using 6 trucks and 2 of which are carrying each piece. Batman wants the second generation to defend the 2 trucks that have each part. Ivo's monkeys, the creator of Amazo, attack the trucks and end up getting away with the parts. Robin hacks into the monkeys to find the parts, and Superboy in a fit of rage chases the monkeys. We jump to see Clark talking to Bruce about Superboy. Bruce tells him that Superboy needs a father, but Clark denies this. We cut back to Superboy where he's tracked the monkeys only to find Amazo. It beats him into a school. The others show up to fight him, but all hope is lost. Then, suddenly, they attack the creator. Then, back to Amazo, they easily kill him. After a talk, they realized that they had some help from an outsider. They thought it was the Justice League, but they were wrong in thinking that. So they think it was Speedy, but spoiler alert, it wasn't him either. We close with Superboy asking Black Canary for training now. Okay, it's time to get to it. Breakdown. No other character is given the light of day. It makes much more sense that this episode should be from the perspective of Superboy, and that one scene with Clark and Bruce aside from that. But I do love Superboy. Okay, back to the breakdown. Let's talk about the things that don't make sense. How was Batman and Metropolis in the exact spot to see Superman? How did Ivo get to the school so quickly? Okay, those aren't nearly as bad as the next thing that I'll mention. It took the whole Justice League 4 hours to take down Amazo, while Wally, Robin, and Superboy took him down in less than 10 minutes. Like, how? He didn't die when trying to protect Ivo. He died by Superboy sticking his hand in him while using Martian Manhunter's power, then stupidly switching to Superman's power. Really? You're telling me that nobody figured that out in the 4 hours the Justice League was fighting him? What? Whatever. Still a great episode character-wise. Don't know much about the plot part. But hey, the episode is somewhat good because it has Wally saying yoink. Yoink! I'll use that for something. Episode 6, Infiltrator. Summary. We see Speedy sneaking into a building, at the end saving a doctor working on something important. They leave on the boat. Alright, it's a Speedy episode. After talking with the second generation, he leaves. Aww. We find out that the Doctor was working on a weapon that could chomp down anything, being used by the League of Shadows for stealing data and stuff. Guys, the League of Shadows might be doing something good for once. With this technology, they can take out all of crypto and NFTs, baby. Yeah. They went to the beach. Oh no. It's a beach episode. No, I've heard about this from the weebs. This is Merca, not my cartoons. Artemis is introduced, and Wally and her do not get along. Yeah, we'll see about that. It plays out for the rest of the episode, which is clearly setting up something. While on the topic of Kid Flash crushing on Miss Martian, while Artemis is crushing on Superboy. And this is targeting to boys how? Basically, they need to protect the Doctor while Superboy and Robin stop the fog weapon thing. Cheshire tries to kill the Doctor the first time, but fails. And so does Robin, and Superboy fail to stop the fog. So everybody tries for a second time. This time, with a setup. Robin and Superboy stop only to find the Doc finishing up the virus that kills the fog. Once doing this, Cheshire sees no reason to kill the Doctor since she already did the deed. Cheshire nearly gets away, but once she shows her face, Artemis lets her go. Nobody is around to see it in the time, so they accept that Cheshire got away. The second generation accept her into the team, but at the end we see that Red Arrow knows that Artemis was lying about her identity and her origins. We also see the light was yet again behind this. Summary over. Breakdown. So I confidently say Red Arrow needs more time on screen. The whole arc of his character is to prove himself to the Justice League, yet we have little screen time to show that or to understand his arc. He gets like 1 or 2 episodes about him, when later on in the show he's kind of a big deal, which yet again we'll get to it. This episode also sets up Artemis and Kid Flash relationship, how they went from hating each other to falling in love. I love this more than the will they won't they thing, cough cough, Martian and Superboy thing. Again, we'll talk about this later. One small question rather than a big one. Why did Black Spider and Hook Guy only arrive at the second try? It could be a distance thing, but this isn't told to us. But that one is small potatoes compared to this. Why is the arrow that saved Kid Flash's life not explained? So it's explained in the episode that the arrow from the last episode was Artemis. That in and of itself isn't a problem. One part of a bigger issue is how it's explained. In the episode, it's casually mentioned by Robin, which confuses me when I first heard it. I thought I missed an episode, but this is actually how it's explained. We're not even told this during her introduction, which is pretty important. They also forget the why and how. Why is she there? Was she following them? How did she know that that arrow would save them? Why didn't you just show yourself afterwards? And why didn't they explain this at the beginning of the episode? This is so important. You can't add a twist into the story without explaining why. That's like a cop movie if the killer was somebody that had no screen time. And when the twist happens, you just end the episode. This is storytelling 101. It's a cool twist, but you need to explain why. Other than it's just, oh, in a right episode, I guess. I like this show's humor, and here it sticks. It's clearly something that we picked up speed, but it's fine, I guess. Finding similar yet different problems. Overall, this episode for me is... ugh. Footnote, this is a massive character assassination for Red Arrow. There is no way Red Arrow could just get into the Justice League by killing people. He never points out the fact that he doesn't have a thing for the no-kill rule, and it's not established that he kills people, but in that one action, it tells us otherwise. So I don't understand why he made this decision. It wasn't even a life or death scenario. But yeah, it's not as bad as Nolan's Batman, but still pretty bad. Episode 7, Denial. Summary. We see the team is training while Robin and Batman are off in Gotham. Due to the team being bored, they go after a mission for Kent Nelson, trying to find out why he's gone missing. Then it's established that Wally doesn't believe in magic, but does when he wants to impress Megan. Once they've reached the location, we see a Lord of Chaos and a Abracadabra torturing Kent. The second generation uses the key that was given by Red Tornado to find a tower. Due to Wally being Wally lies about his intent and gets nearly everybody killed. Miss Martian then actually tells the truth and then they are saved. This leads Wally to be in conflict about whether magic is real. Everybody is led to Kent one way or another. The villains use a collar which lets them into the tower as well. Kent later saves Wally and takes him to the top of the tower, where the Lord of Chaos follows him. Kent then dies while Wally is pinned down while the others are having the same issue. Wally then puts on the helmet and Dr. Fate does his work. A back and forth later and Faith wins. The helmet at first wouldn't let Wally go, but after a brief talk gives him back his body. While Wally keeps his helmet as a souvenir, and the others are alright, I guess. Who cares? I did like the focus on this episode with Wally, his romance and his beliefs being tested. I like this episode because of that focus. Every time an episode puts all of its chips on one character, it usually works out. Not always, but that's for another time. Not only that, but it does set up Dr. Fate and the magic in general in this show. Saying that, however, why didn't Artemis go with Wally at the bell? But that's a smaller issue. The bigger issue is the bad guy's plan. So they grab Kent to get him into the tower. Fine. The problem is he doesn't want to do it, which he is shown to do. So what then? They don't have any leverage on him. So how are they going to get in exactly? Oh yeah, because conveniently the second generation arrives to unlock the tower for the bad guys. Because otherwise they weren't going to get in. Furthermore, this isn't their plan because when the second generation does arrive, the Lord of Chaos is surprised. So what? The whole plot revolves around this. The worst part is the fact that Kent didn't even have the key on him. So even if he did go along with the bad guys, he couldn't unlock the tower. So what, my ginger? Speaking of gingers, Wally's done really well here, I like to say. It takes a lot of Wally's character flaws and works with them in terms of romance and beliefs in magic. Good episode overall, but just with one really big problem that is really starting to show the series cracks in storytelling. Episode 8, Downtime, Summary. We start off with the second generation, nearly all of them unconscious, beaten. In the nick of time, Batman shows up to save him. Afterwards, Batman says that Aqualad needs his head in the game, and this caused the team to fail. Aqualad admits this. Lately, Calder has been thinking about his life in Atlantis, and what he's left behind. Once Aquaman invites him to dinner and gets an exposition dump, which I'll talk about later. Calder meets up with Tula and Garth and invites Tula to the dinner. We see Connor and Miss Martian get to know each other, then we also see the Atlanteans imprisoning some kind of creature. We yet again see a few different scenes of Robin showing his anger, and Black Manta setting up some kind of explosion. Then we get another scene of somebody else. Wally doing who cares. At the dinner event, Aquaman announces that he has a child on the way. Then Aquaman is called to the surface. Tula tells Aqualad that she and Garth are going together when all of a sudden multiple explosions go off. During this event, Tula gets shot. Calder and the others pick up on the fact that the main science sector isn't damaged, so they realize that the battle takes place here. See, Artemis is going... Oh my god. Why? Why is this show doing this? Aqualad and Garth sneak in to be found out. A fight ensues in which Calder mentions to Garth to get his head in the game. After the fight, Black Manta blows up a creature and the conflict is over. And Calder comes to the conclusion that he is Aqualad and no one else. Breakdown. Unlike the last episode, there is a lot more to talk about. First, let's talk about the episode's greatest weakness. The story is chaotic and not well paced at all. At first, I thought I was going to say that this episode focuses on Aqualad, but I'd be wrong because there's time for Artemis, Robin, Kid Flash, Miss Martian, and Superboy. I'm sorry, but no. You can't do this. None of the other characters connect with Calder's story until the very, very, very end. It's just sloppy in every sense of the word. Bumping back and forth between different characters, it completely distracts the story. The only way I can see this working is if they were all at the end. Then place the final scene of Calder coming back there. That would be more effective. I also wanted to mention this because this is one of the biggest flaws with the show later down the line. See, while this episode isn't completely bad, it's just the episode. But in seasons 2 and 3, this is where... everywhere. So it's good to point out something like this due to it being a core root flaw that is needed to be addressed later down the line. So now, I'd like to touch upon Calder. It's set up how Calder's mind isn't in the game, and the reason to why that is to set up in the end where we understand why he isn't in the game. Personally, I think the change of him waiting to stay in Atlantis is a bit too quick. In fact, this whole arc feels rushed. We've never heard about Tula before this, and suddenly she appears out of nowhere, and the same is with the conflict as a whole. If only we had more time for this episode. But as its own contained thing, I'm fine with it. I think that this gives the story more of a leg room for each character. So yes, his arc is done well here. Now, I want to end on the same note that I started with because I think it's very important. This season, while it may have good episodes like this, works because of the small cast. Giving each character time gives us something to be invested in. It was well spent for the characters. When we go on missions, we grow attached to them because we had time with them. That's how we get connected to each character. We understand their first-hand struggles. And I know you can do these things without solely focusing on them, but the issue is that later seasons run into is adding even more characters, which on its own thing isn't bad, but I won't talk about this until much later. Like I said, having honed in on this episode is perfect way to do this. We've been doing this for years at this point. It's simple. Just because it's simple doesn't, in this case, mean it doesn't work or is bad. And this is something that the show will forget later down the line. But this episode is the patient zero to the whole show falling apart. Man, it really makes you think.
Calder, I'm sorry. We wanted to tell you sooner, but Garth and I, we are together.
Episode 9, Bereft. Summary. The episode starts off with Miss Martian seeming to forget where she is when Superboy appears acting like an animal.
You just straightened it!
I didn't.
After the intro, we see Robin has forgotten 6 months of his life, but he remembers that Batman wanted him to be radio silent. Then we see Kid Flash and Artemis wake up in a small house. Artemis is surprised by the outfit and she thinks that her dad probably wants to kill Wally. Kid Flash definitely finds Artemis attractive as they are attacked by Bolivian soldiers. Megan has a flashback to some other times, giving her more info that she's on a team. We flash to Wally and Artemis where they're suddenly being attacked by Superboy. Then to add on to it, Bolivian soldiers start attacking them as well. Miss Martian later meets up with Kid Flash and Artemis to tell them what she knows so far. Superboy is caught and struggling until mysterious figure calms him down. A few feet away and we see Calder passed out on the ground behind some rocks. We catch up to Robin to find Bialia soldiers attacking him, while the other group meets up. Footnote, this whole fight scene with the soldiers is broken up. They talk about what they already should know. Megan uses her abilities to combine their memories to see what they have forgotten. Turns out that the team is there because something landed in Bialia, and they're here to find out why. They notice Aqualad's absence. They find Aqualad, but find out that Superboy is in pain, so she goes off to rescue Superboy. From this point on, it's just Miss Martian fighting with Simon. Oh my god. Okay. They use the power of teamwork to beat him. Okay, sure. Breakdown. I fairly like this episode. I do think the teamwork at the end is a bit dumb, and everyone forgetting certain things yet remembering certain things that are helpful is annoying, but honestly, I thought this was overall a good episode. This is due to the concept being interesting. That's the whole episode's bread and butter. Not a lot happens character-wise, yet it's still compelling. It's a very creative episode. It's also nice to see KF and Artemis be interested in each other without their memories. Saying that, however, I think that they could have done more with this concept, and because this episode relies on the concept so much that it hurts the overall episode. A good example of this is every other character except for Superboy, Wally, and Artemis' relationship. Miss Martian doesn't really change. Robin is still Robin, and Aqualad... Bruh, didn't even get anything to do in the episode. Would I call it a wasted concept? No, I just think looking back on it, it's a little bit disappointing. But by all means, not a bad episode, but not a good one either. Episode 10, Targets. Summary. We have a red episode, baby! Sorry. We see that there is a deal between two countries waiting for a single person that will bridge between the two. Red Arrow seems to be trying to stop an assassin that is there to stop the deal permanently. Aqualad gives Red Arrow the info about the assassin's height, and the assassin makes her move, shooting an RPG at a car, but missing due to Red Arrow. The Arbiter turns out to be Lex Luthor. Red Arrow doesn't quite seem to understand why Luthor is here, when Lex has shell companies profiting from the war. Luthor then explains that more money is made by peace between two countries. We see Superman and Miss Martian getting ready for school. No, don't care, skip. Red Arrow tries to interrogate Cheshire when suddenly Sportsmaster frees her. A chase ensues, and in the end Red Arrow finds out their hideout, finding Ra's al Ghul to be the hirer of the two, when Red Arrow is spotted, and a few minutes later Sportsmaster calls him a broken arrow. We flash to the school to see Connor and Megan having a tough time fitting in. Bump back to Red Arrow as he escapes. Bouncing back to Superboy, he gives us a history about Rachel, whatever, sometimes actually being helpful to the plot. Cheshire nearly gets away with being in disguise when Aqualad stops her. A battle ensues. Back at school, I don't care! Sportsmaster mentions that he has an inside source in all of their missions. The fight stops, the day is won, and peace is made. Red Arrow mentions the possibility of a mole, Aqualad will investigate, and Red Arrow briefly talks about his respect for the team. Lex is at the end scene with Ra's being concerned and connected to the light. Episode over. Breakdown. I couldn't find much plot or story issues to talk about here. It's really a solid episode. The only issue is that I kind of think Cheshire's somehow sneaking in twice, and why would Sportsmaster tell Aqualad about the mole? Those two things are not good, per se. But other than that, the rest of the episode is pretty clean. Red Arrow is an interesting hero to do with his motivations behind him, and well, there's a lot of other things to talk about, but I'll leave that for the end. So we've established that part's good. However, there is one more issue. The one thing that I want to mention is how I hate the back and forth between different storylines. It's really irritating at this point. Only one of the times with Connor and Megan does it actually matter to the plot. I just hate doing this. The flip-flop, it's starting to damage the show overall in such a big way. In Downtime it was worse, but here it's still a problem. This is not good for a story. I'm sorry. Why is it so hard to just commit yourself to a storyline? It shows their passion for writing, but it also shows the fundamental weakness. But I have a feeling this will pop up again, so I'll wait until then. Overall, good episode. The only thing that hurts is the back and forth. Episode 11, Terrors. Summary. We start off the episode with Superman and Martian Manhunter fighting two super twins when Superman knocks them out into a nearby building where they're revealed, disguised, and replaced with Superboy and Miss Martian. Batman explains that it's not a coincidence that 4 ICE villains are in the same prison. We are then introduced to Waller, the warden, and Hugo Strange, the psychiatrist. In addition, no one has escaped Bereft prison, one of the reasons being the collars stopping their abilities. Except for Miss Martian's telepathy. We skip to the next scene where Superboy ends up in a fight. One of the prisoners notice Superboy, but is then overridden by Miss Martian. We also get to see who's the top dog, which would be Icicle Jr.'s dad, and mentions his plan to break everyone out. New clothes are given out, and Superboy and Miss Martian has issues in therapy sessions about Superboy's relationship with Superman, causing him to lash out. A couple things happen with the main villains using their plan. Superboy and Icicle Jr. have a heart-to-heart about father problems and relationships. Mr. Freeze breaks free and deactivates the colors. Miss Martian blows her cover by saving someone. Superboy then tricks Icicle Jr. into thinking the colors are turned back on, but Superboy uses this opportunity to turn the colors back on. Wait a second, that didn't make sense. Oh, it just sounds confusing. It's not an error in the script. Oh, okay. Icicle Jr. and Superboy then break into the woman's side of the facility, facing off against a few other villains. Miss Martian and Superboy then meet and kiss, leaving poor Icicle Jr. to be boned. At the end, while everyone was captured except for Riddler, it's revealed that Hugo Strange was a part of the breakout the whole time, and works for the light. Breakdown time. Breakdown. Dude, this is by far the best episode. It focuses on what we needed to, not some dumb side plot that dumps in and out, just a consistently paced narrative. I love it. And Superboy got to team up with a character that has the same issues he does. This was really refreshing, and I'm glad to say this episode holds up well. And get this, it's not poorly written. No plot holes, the character action makes sense, and little plot conveniences. Great episode. Love how they're expanding upon Superboy, making him more than just a character with anger issues, and uses that role that he's playing to connect that. I also liked Icicle Jr. for some reason. That's mostly because I like Ben 10. Villains aren't that great, which I'll get to at a different time. The only thing that annoyed me was the fact that there was a guy that keeps on recognizing Superboy, but whenever he wanted to call it out, he gets stopped. That bit was a bit dumb, but I'm glad we get to see what a focused episode looks like. I know there hasn't been a lot of the team lately, but I don't mind that. This is what television is made for, and villains that were set up all the way back in the first episode. That's why I think this episode works for me more than the others. It doesn't add too much new, it also takes the old and gives it new purposes. I also think that the undercover stuff is a good idea. Due to the Young Justice not being a fully public team, unlike the Titans for example, there's a lot more you can do with that. So, before I move on, I'd just like to mention something that is very important for the show. The light. The light is practically behind every enemy and every villain in every fight ever, pretty much. They play a huge role in seasons 1 and 2, and in a way it makes every episode still connect to the overall plot, which for writing is hard to do, but they pull off. But I can't talk about them yet until I reach the end of the season. But in conclusion, this great episode is one of my favorites and still holds up to today, and for the future.
Riddle me this before you go. I am loud and obnoxious. I like music that rhymes. I'm a fraction of the population, but commit half the crimes. Who am I?
Episode 12, Homefront, Summary. We start off with a flashback for Artemis of her sister leaving her when Mom tells her to get up for school. We see Robin and Batgirl at the same school. We see Aqualad ask Red Tornado about the mole. The answer he gives Aqualad is to choose what to do with the mole. Later on, we see Robin gets the drop on Artemis, where he corners her and asks why she's in Gotham as they head to the base. And bang, the whole hideout is compromised. Robin and Artemis have to fend for themselves. They flee until they find the camera footage of what happened. They try and call for help but fails. Artemis thinks that she hears Red Tornado, but it turns out that they look similar and sound alike, but Red Tornado, they are not. Turns out one of the robots have fire abilities while the other one has water abilities. The robots have other team members hostage, so Robin comes up with a plan to use EMPs on them. Artemis is stressed out of her mind while Robin keeps his head cool, so they use the X-ray machine in the med lab to make an EMP. Once Wally and Superboy distract the two robots, Robin nearly finishes the job but then is captured. It's up to Artemis now. Nearly panicking and having multiple flashbacks, she ends up using the arrows from the souvenirs to finish what Robin started. The day is saved when suddenly the pulse wears off, and Red Tornado knocks them out to save the League, and 3 of them are gone. Breakdown. Look. A part of me likes this episode, but there are issues. How did Robin conveniently land one of his robberangs right where Wally is, when it just so happens he needs Wally to stop the main threat? Why is Robin out of EMPs when he just arrived? He should be all stocked up. Maybe he lost it in the water fight, but this is never shown or explained why. How did Artemis make that shot? She did a backflip mid-air and was more than a few feet away in a very specific spot, and she landed it? Yeah, sure. I doubt that she was that good, or even, why didn't she even sneak around to the part where she was before and just shoot from there? It'd be much easier. Also, Red Tornado leaves them alive for some reason instead of killing them. So did the Justice League just show up in time? It's never really explained. Wait a second, how did Red Tornado get evil anyway? Because they touched? Maybe it would make more sense if it's connected to the mainframe or something, but again, it isn't explained. The rest is about Artemis. I mean, I like Artemis in this episode, think she did a good job, but none of this makes any sense. I'm sorry, this plot is terrible. It's not the worst that I've seen from this show, but it's certainly not good. Episode 13, Alpha Male, Summary. There is a man clearly trying to hurt a tiger, but runs into issues, nearly coming out barely alive. Meanwhile, Batman and Aqualad talk about the possibility of a mole off their last attack. Superboy hears about this and tells the rest of the team, leading everyone to have problems with Aqualad. They go after the situation of the mayor in India. They land only for the team to fail instantly. Oh boy, I have a feeling I'll have a lot to talk about. Everybody gets attacked by the animals only to find out that the collar is the only thing controlling it. Shazam then gives Aqualad advice about leadership, but right after gets captured. Finally, Aqualad steps up as leader. We reveal that the main bad guy is the Brain. He wants to research Shazam. The team stop him and learn that Aqualad's choice was justified. We'll get to that. Connor gets a doggo and Shazam is a kid. Oh boy, there's so much to talk about. Breakdown. Why are they mad about them not being told about the mole? They know if the mole finds out, the mole can just yoink out of there without a trace. Then you can't find out who it was, or who's behind it, or even if it can happen again. Or even worse, if the mole went on offense, leading the other team members dying. Do any of you want those things to happen? If half of them would use their brain, they would realize this. Aren't most of these characters supposed to be smart? And I get it. Some would be upset, but literally all of them would do the same thing. Aqualad did. And the attack happened, I know. But that doesn't mean that telling everybody about the mole is a good idea. And they point to the fact that they nearly died. But they forget that Aqualad nearly died too in the attack. And besides, like I've mentioned, worst possible things could have happened if we were to talk about the mole. Why is Batman and Aqualad having a conversation with Superboy in earshot range? In the first episode, Aqualad knows that he has the ability, yet Batman and Aqualad forget about this. And he just had the trust arc. We've been over this. It feels like they're manufacturing conflict when there's no reason to. Why are their comms jammed? The answer is never explained. How did the bad guys trap Shazam? He got a tiger in the right spot in the right time, where he knew exactly how Shazam would split off from the team, where the Brain could just so happen to use something that can stop him completely, even though Shazam has superpowers the likes of which Superman can even be rivaled by. To top it off with the sudden change from the team is the worst. It basically comes down to being more of a leader, which we've already seen episodes about already. And the team thing is something that we've seen already as well. Not only is this episode recycled, but fails in everything else around it. A waste of my time. Next episode. Episode 14, Revelations, Summary. We start off with a normal day when all of a sudden a giant plant starts attacking the city. The people behind the attack are the newly formed Injustice League. The next generation is sent on a task to go after the Injustice while the Justice League fight off the giant plants. Due to Zatara locator spell, we know that the bad guy's location is in Louisiana somewhere. The second generation sets out to stop them. At first they are ambushed, but in the end succeeding due to Robin placing bombs on the certain plant, controlling the rest. The team seems to be failing, but at the last second Aqualad uses the helmet of Dr. Fate. It stalls long enough for the Justice League to show up in time. Aqualad is let go from the helmet, and the light used the Injustice League as a distraction for their real operation. So there weren't a ton of issues. In fact, I'd say that this is one of the most solid episodes in the series, mostly due to one big action scene taking place. Having said that, there are issues, just a few. How did Kid Flash break his fall, and how did the Justice League get to Louisiana so fast? I assume that they have a teleporter, but how close would they get to them? Unless there's like a teleporter right there? Anyway, now there are two things left. One, I think the Joker is at his worst here, in terms of design and voice acting. I know there are a ton of other Jokers, but this is easily the weakest. And the second thing is the most important. Dr. Fate has shown in the last episode with him fighting tooth and nail to have a body/host. So the likelihood that he would give up Calder is very, very rare, even with Kent. To me at least, it would damage the impact of the helmet. Saying that it's not a huge issue as of right now. Overall, a fine episode, just passable or above average. The standout thing is that they're setting up Artemis and Kid Flash's relationship, and well, the compounds of like science fiction, magic, and abilities. I actually like those three mixed together. I think it's something that should be done more often in comic book shows and movies. Humanity. Summary. We start off with Red Tornado and what happened to him. Meanwhile, back at base, a new team member appears, Zatanna. The team heads out with the new member and heads to find Red Tornado. Red Tornado is told a true story about his creator's designs. We'll get to that later. The team goes on to interrogate Ivo to find the creator of the Red Tornado. Zatanna, with a few words, makes him spill everything. I'll get to that. The creator creates a new robot, one more powerful than ever. Red Volcano then kills the creator, who turns out to be a robot as well. Red Volcano then sets a plan out to destroy the human race and to take over. Ivo warns Red Volcano about the second generation finding out his location. Red Tornado tries to get the team to play dead, but Red Volcano sees through this. The team wins because the other robot sacrificed himself to stop Red Volcano. At the end, we see Red Tornado take care of his creator. Breakdown. So first, I'd like to say I don't love magic in terms of storytelling. I like hard magic with, There are two types of magic, hard and soft. Hard gives a hard set of rules to follow in terms of how it's used in the story. Soft is more ambiguous, relying on what the story wants to do, and that's why it sucks. Without magic having rules, it can do whatever it wants. Now you can ground soft magic, but it's hard to do, because the more you ground it, the more rules you have to add, which makes it harder magic. That being said, the magic tends to go that way. I didn't mention this before in the Denial episode, but it needs to be said going forward. A good example of this is where Zatanna gets Ivo to talk. Yet right after this scene, she explains that she needs time and practice to execute these things. Yet there was no time needed for her to make Ivo talk. So how does this magic work in this universe? And while I'm at it, how powerful is Dr. Fate? He seems to be the presto win button in any situation. Does this mean if somebody studied under him, they can gain his powers? And if so, why hasn't he trained like an army? But if you can't learn this, is it like genetic? But that doesn't make sense because Zatanna explains that she needs time. I hate magic, dude. Well, soft magic, that being. And it needs something ruling it. It can't just roam free completely on its own. Justice League Dark had cool magic, but explained at least briefly how it works. I want to see that in Young Justice, because Zatara used a location spell which just told the bad guy's location. And if it didn't take him any time at all, how the fuck does magic work in this show? Oh my god. Okay, moving on. I like the concept of humanity. Honestly, I thought it was a little bit short-lived with little depth. The lesson was just don't be completely non-human or it will lead to bad things. Funny how Red Tornado was created to be non-human, yet ends up being the most human out of all of them. Also, you remember that part where there were two other robots and how they became human led to their downfall? Can I just get an episode around that, please? Those sound way more interesting than the normal episode at this point. And it's not like we need any characters except for Zatanna being introduced. But even then, it's not like you need an episode just for Zatanna. She's not even a part of the main show anyway. So, I'm just saying, I want to see robots. Which one sounds more interesting? Robots thinking that they are human, learning then finding out that they are robots only to lead to their demise, or just another bad guy that wants to control the earth? Honestly, which one's interesting? Think about it. Episode 16, Failsafe. Summary. We start off with a member of the Justice League dying to a new threat. One by one they are taken out, and it's up to the second generation to stop the new threat. The team members die one by one, thinking that at the end the dead members are alive, only to be wrong. Martian Manhunter shows up even though we saw him die, as they slowly lose from Miss Martian to being the last one standing on her original team, only for Manhunter to kill her. We then find out that this was all just a training exercise that went way too real. Miss Martian's abilities were so great that death of the members could lead to a coma of the members that died in that situation. So Martian Manhunter had to end it the only way he could. Breakdown. I love this episode. I know that's easy to say, but goddamn I love how this episode uses stakes and tension as real weight, and how perfect the chemistry was for each death. Even knowing the ending, it's still good for the characters. Seeing their reactions was all perfect for them. Each character has an importance, a great idea on paper and on execution. And this will have an impact on the rest of the season. We never see episodes like this, and when it is, it's done poorly. So that's one of the main reasons this story sticks out compared to all the others. I think that's why I like this episode so much. It tells a lot about each character. Like how Wally gets angry after Artemis's death. Even if it isn't real, we got to see what it's like when they lose somebody close. That's where the true characters shine and show up. Great episode. Nicole Dubuc, Dubuc, D-U-B-U-C, Dubuc, is carrying the weight.
One day you're gonna get shot.
Episode 17, Disordered. Summary. We start off where the team has left off, dealing with the trauma that they had from the last episode. Black Canary tries to help Superboy, but Superboy leaves, taking off with a sphere that is now a flying bicycle. What? Black Canary talks with each member of the team. While that happens, Superboy encounters the Forever People, in which they track down technology from their world to find a fight, leading Superboy to win, but finding out that the technology is from Apocalypse, a place of great destruction and the opposite of the Forever People. Superboy and the Forever People fight with the goons again. So the Forever People turn out to be a giant robot, but the goons throw a different box that controls them. No, I did not explain that before, because I wanted to get your reaction from that. Caught you in 4K. Your face is priceless. The sphere then attaches to the robot's head where it turns good again. Dude, even I'm confused. Superboy then returns with a damaged cycle, telling Black Canary the deepest secret of all. He was happy when he saw all of his friends die. Breakdown. Alright, just a few problems. Why did Red Tornado open the door if Batman didn't want him to leave? Why didn't Deus Ex use the explosion before all the men were taken out? Where is everyone in the second fight? So other than that, it's time that we go over the character stuff. I'm going to briefly talk about the therapy stuff. I'll leave the rest of it for the end of the video. Basically, everyone gets time to talk about what happened last episode. I might infer that this is good, like really good. Giving your characters a recovery episode is smart. Most shows do this to drag out for time, but here it makes sense, considering everything that happened in the last episode. I'll go more into depth about it later, but for now, know that it's well structured. The Forever People is mostly a cool concept than good characters. That's mostly kind of okay. They're neat to think about, but not good in terms of execution. The cowboy kid is a cowboy. The bear guy is strong. The leader is a leader. They're really simple. I'm not really looking forward to seeing these characters in the future, and to be honest, in the next context of the episode, I don't care about these characters, and I want to know more about the characters that actually went through something big. The Forever People and the side plot in general is taking time away from characters that need it the most. Like, what if we connected the side plot with our core characters? I think this would be a much better idea than what we got. Lastly, Superboy. I thought that Superboy was entertaining but not groundbreaking, however. The last scene completely makes up for that. On its own, this one scene is my favorite scene in the entire series. It tells so much about the character with little words. I hope that they expand upon this more later. So it's a good episode. It's a little bit annoying that we flip back and forth, but it's not all bad, so I'll take it. Episode 18, Secrets. Summary. We start off at the crime where a sword was recently stolen. The thief turns out to be there the whole time using the power of the sword. Artemis recently finds out that Miss Martian and Superboy are a thing, so she heads up to beat up some bad guys with Zatanna. This gets the attention of the thief Harm, while half of the team is out partying and the other half is talking about the traitor. The party is basically about a prankster getting what he deserves. Secret leaves Artemis and Zatanna to Harm's home, where we learn that Harm killed his sister. Then his sister turns out to be a ghost. The ghost sister then grabs something from his chest, and somehow this loses... What? Oh yeah, the plot about the traitor thing? We'll get to that. Breakdown. How did Miss Martian stow away on a trip that takes months, according to season 4 of the show? There are quite a bit of issues. So he waited? How did he know that he was going to say that? Was he just waiting there accordingly? Couldn't he have just asked him though? Better yet, why didn't the police see him? And why can't they just shoot? You have multiple chances to. Oh my god, this scene is such a mess. Also, why doesn't the police offer not to believe this guy? You have Martians, living atoms, and a guy dressed up as a bat. Why do you not believe this guy? The convenience of the thugs is also pretty funny, but you know what is funny? The fact that Harm doesn't kill them when given the opportunity. What do you hope to achieve? So what? They know about Harm's home. If they live, then your secret doesn't matter. You know what's also funny? This slap. You know what is also funny? This episode is in general not good. The party is a total waste of time that goes nowhere in terms of anything. The traitor plot literally disappears for the whole episode after its first scene. God, what a mess this episode is. It's not bad in a way that's worth breaking down, it's just simple mistakes. But let's talk about the only good thing in this episode, Harm, aka the great villain to come out of Young Justice. His backstory is a mix between tragic and evil. He killed his sister to gain power and to be pure. He's simply just memorable. And the fact that he talks to himself in the third person is great and shows a lot about him. He's dangerous and has simply one of the greatest designs. The best part about his character is that Harm's backstory is left to the imagination. How does the magic work? Was it hard for him to do it? And if so, how so? With knowledge about magic and skills in combat are unknown, which makes this episode and this character fascinating. Too bad it was in a shit episode. Episode 19, Misplaced. Summary. Witch Boy casts a spell that separates the kids from the adults. We follow Shazam through most of the episode using Shazam to carry back and forth. They find the location of the Witch Boy and then take him out together with the other bad guys. But in this fight, Zatanna uses the helmet of Dr. Fate, so Zatara makes a deal with Fate to wear the mask instead of his daughter. The world is back to normal, although there is one more thing. You see, while all this was taking place, Riddler stole something from Star Labs, and that would be the bit of the creature from Downtime. This episode is broken, doesn't make any sense. So the first concept of the episode is that anyone of the age of 18 is separated from the people that are younger than that. So already we have a ton of holes. A good example of this is Miss Martian. She is 48 years old, and yet she is with the children's world, which doesn't make much sense. That brings us to another issue. Does the spell account for the mental age of someone? That's the only counter to the point I see. But if someone has a mental age of 19 and they are 17, does that mean that they are now in the adult world? See, this is where Miss Martian doesn't fit in this scenario. This is something that needs explanation. And best yet, Red Tornado is in the adult world, even though he's not human. And that's another thing. The objects, what happens to those? Well, according to the episode, there are now double the amount of objects. If there is a box before the snap is one box, but after the snap there has to be two boxes because the box is in the adult world and the human world. So this means that there are now two boxes after fixed snap, or at least that's what I think happens. It's either the adult world or the kid world, right? So I think that's what they wanted to do, but the reason why I mentioned the double theory is that the one that the show is proposing doesn't make any sense. So if there were two boxes because of the snap, right? So does one of them teleport? Which one is real? Witch Boy says that the Fate has half his strength, so are the objects half as weak? But that would mean multiple buildings would collapse. Everything is such a mess, and to top it all off, the character that figures it out, Shazam, finds out all because the character just so happens to be on a flight with him to where they need to go, where she turns 18 exactly in that exact same spot. Bro, really? I also love the fact that Zatanna can't do a locator spell, yet a few minutes off screen and she can do it? Magic does whatever the plot needs it to. Oh, but we're not at the best part, my friends. You see, my friends, my gamers, this was all a part of a plan by the Light to get one piece of that creature that they want. They did all that just to get a crowd to get mad at Star Labs to somehow get past all of the security that the police are supposed to be protecting, all to get one piece of a creature. That has to be the dumbest set of moves that one simple thing needs. Yes, the character stuff like Zatanna was good, but fuck this episode. It makes no sense. Episode 20, Coldhearted. Summary. Everything is going in Wally's way due to it being his birthday when he gets a surprise that he has to run all by himself for a package and finds out that Miss Martian is with Superboy. Oh no, the humanity.
Dude, I want to jerk off!
On his 4-hour trip, he runs into Vandal Savage, wasting 15 minutes of his time, while he gets there with 19 minutes left to spare, only to find out that the girl died. Wally thinks about the journey, and then all of a sudden a nurse comes into frame to tell Wally that the girl is still alive and the girl is a queen. Kid Flash then tries to take back the heart from the villain, only to find out that Count Vertigo was trying to stop him all along. He gets the heart to the girl in time to wake up to find that the queen has died, and Vertigo boasting about his plan. But just when you think it's over, the queen is alive, with Vertigo caught guilty. Breakdown. Okay, hot take. This is the best episode of Young Justice Season 1, and that's not even a question. Wally is the best that he's ever been. It takes the idea of a character that is overconfident and puts him in a position where he has to grow. It's a very simple and well done, but it still works. The only problem I can see with this episode is the fact that Vertigo was dumb and his goons are very easily could have just surrounded the Flash while he was on the floor, yet didn't. But other than that, it's a good episode. Good writing across the board. I most likely will talk about this later on. Episode 21, Image. Summary. The team is sent into Bialya to stop a good leader from giving up everything he has to a dictator. The next generation is sent in to take care of it. But along the way they run into the star from Hello Megan. Why? So we go to save the good leader only to come across Simon again, in which Simon reveals Megan's true form is a weirder alien. Her friends come in after stopping a ton of guards, we'll get to that, in which she brain blasted them just to protect her secret. At the end, she basically mind-murdered Simon. At the end, they get the good leader back in charge while impersonating the dictator. In the last scene, we find out that the dictator got into the house and blackmails Miss Martian to work with her on a later date. Alrighty, this episode's a mess. Breakdown. Okay, first, the convenience of Megan is insane. I get they want to connect that and the main plot, but what on earth does a foreign country connect to a sitcom TV star? This makes no sense. The only thing we know about Miss Logan is that she likes animals, but how does this connect to Bialya? The animals, maybe? But why would you go to this place specifically and just happen to be where the team is? This is so dumb. Then, of course, the Martians have the internet or something to watch TV shows. How? Whatever. Oh, better yet, my favorite part of any media, where they have the characters surrounded by enemies, yet somehow in the next shot the enemies have all been defeated. Wow, nice moving on. I'd like to mention the last time that Superboy went up against alien weapons, he had a hard time fighting them, so how did he exactly beat up all the enemies? And no, I'm still not over this. Maybe KF and Superboy, but Robin was surrounded by people. There is no way he got out of there alive. I hate this lazy device, but the worst part is that Queen Bee somehow sneaks past everyone, even through Superboy, which he can use super hearing at any point in time. And past Robin and Kid Flash somehow? This makes no sense. And the bigger question is, how does Queen Bee know Megan's secret? Did Simon tell her? Did she mind control somehow? Did she find out any other ways? And if so, how? Nothing makes any sense. It's hard to talk about character stuff when you have broken elements that are built before the character stuff. God, this episode is the worst. Episode 22, Agendas, Summary. We start off with the Justice League at the Watchtower. The Justice League is choosing the next members of the Justice League. Meanwhile, Superboy hears a message only for him by Lex Luthor telling him that Cadmus is working on another Superman project. Superboy goes to investigate to find out that they don't know what Superboy is talking about. After more investigating, Superboy finds the project, so he tries to send him free only to get into a fight. He is then saved by Xenomorphs and sees Xenomorph City, a place where Xenomorphs live in peace and in Cadmus. He fights the project again, but this time with the help of Luthor. Luthor gives him shields, enough that gives him his full abilities of Superman. After the fight, the Xenomorphs are sent back to work, and the project is kept on ice. Superboy meets with Luthor. He tells Superboy that he's half human, and the human is from Luthor. Superboy tries to grab him, only for him to get shut down with 2 words. Breakdown. So it's time to talk about the episode. There aren't a lot of issues with the episode. It's really simple. The Justice League is talking about new members and the Superboy is learning about himself. It's really simple. Let's discuss the Justice League first. I'm glad that we get to call out what Dr. Fate did to Zatanna's father. I do think Fate gives mostly a good reason. The hosts are mostly okay with it, and they do need Dr. Fate to do his power, and the Justice League needs to keep an eye on him. I like the fact that this show actually addressed this. But let's cover the best line. So he wouldn't. Is probably the greatest line. It says so much about Batman and his influence on Robin. In fact, I'd say Batman is really compassionate in this show. Is this the best Batman? I mean, no. But let's talk about the Superboy stuff. I mean, it's okay. I still don't quite understand Luthor's plan in all this. Then control over Superboy, but honestly that's kind of an overdone way to do it. Did he plan the Xenomorphs as part of the plan? Other than proving that Lex has power over him, telling him so much can be a big problem for the future. I also want to mention the placement of the shields is ridiculous, and how somebody can find it could be really easy. And if so, what would Lex do? And how did they not find all the Xenomorphs? How is this place so big? There's no way they could fit all that many Xenomorphs in such a big space without being found out. So overall, a good episode. It's clearly building to something. The only way to find out is to go on further. 23. Insecure. Summary. We start off with Artemis and Green Arrow working together to take down a bad guy, when it's realized that Red Arrow is watching over them. Red Arrow joins the team to check out Sportsmaster. They try and stop him only to fail, but Artemis wants to prove herself, so she puts a tracker on a train and a tracker on Cheshire's sword. Telling the team about the tracker on the train, Artemis shows up and Red Arrow follows her. This leads to another fight in which the bad guys get away again. Sportsmaster confronts his daughter Artemis with yet again another member blackmailed. Oh, and the rest of the team just invaded Red Tornado's privacy. Yikes. Breakdown. So let's talk about the worst side plot. I could care less about Red Tornado having another body. It is literally there to take up time. It has no purpose. So let's talk about another problem. Kid Flash is super nerfed in this episode, and I don't know why. Instead of trying to knock the enemy out, he'll stand there and dodge pointlessly and go to hand-to-hand combat at normal speed. Kid Flash is pretty dumb for not using his powers more often. So the character stuff is mostly okay. This basically is an episode about Artemis's failures. The team is against her, and it seems like her being the mole is a high possibility. But that's not the reason I think this episode is okay. What makes it just okay is that everything happens in this episode. Not over the course of the series, it's just one episode. I'll talk about this later on, but overall this episode is barely okay at best. Episode 24, Performance. Summary. The team goes to investigate a circus due to all their stops being close to multiple robberies. The team poses as the Dangers, a group of talents. Later on the team, they try and track the robber, but fail. There is also a flu going on, but it turns out this flu is Parasite, sucking other people's powers and strength. Parasite gets away, but the team tracks him down, where they find him creating a black hole. Why? I don't know. The team stops him once and for all, and that's quite a bit of a dull episode. Breakdown. Okay, so let's talk about the issues, cause there are quite a few. Why is there ammo where advanced tech is? That literally makes no sense. Also, this is the worst scene. Hit him, hit him, hit him, hit him. You guys suck. And no, there is no way Robin somehow grabbed the flash drive from Parasite. The show's visuals go against this. Okay, let's discuss another issue. If a touch gives you the flu, then being grabbed by the hand would nearly kill you. Every ounce should be sucked out of you. You're most likely to be in a coma, and if you can touch someone and get their powers, then you must be the most powerful supervillain in the DC universe. What if he just touched Darkseid? Then would he be a god? Okay, I've got another big issue. This one's not just a problem with the episode. This hurts every episode with this device. The shields, Lex has explained to suppress your human DNA. That's all it does. The problem is that Superboy gets sucked and then uses the shields and gives him more strength. But that doesn't make sense, because it doesn't give him more power, it just suppresses your human DNA. It doesn't give you more energy. Even Parasite says that he heals faster than Superman, which doesn't make any sense from the rules that you have given to us. So how powerful are these shields? Can he use multiple at once? Does that give him more strength? Could that kill him? I don't get this. Trash episode, even if the characters isn't that good. I could care less about the stuff with Robin due to us caring about this character we've never met before. Oh, and Red Arrow likes the team now with little evidence. Nice.
Sorry. No hit.
Episode 25, Usual Suspects. Summary. It's the day of the new members of the Justice League when the second generation gets a call about Cheshire leading them to a plane crash, but it was a trap. but they defeat them with the case being captured by the Justice League. However, Superboy gets a call from Lex asking him to go to Santa Prisca, along with Artemis and Miss Martian. Everybody tells their secrets and then fights, then wins against the bad guys, leading to the action scene where they win. But suddenly, it's revealed that Red Arrow uses the items from the case to brainwash the Justice League. Batman then teleports Vandal Savage into the Watchtower. Red Arrow was the mole. Dun dun dun. Breakdown. There are issues, of course, but you know this at this point. How did they know the second generation would get their location? Robin had to hack into the Justice League system in order to get the location. But what if the Justice League got the message? Which would likely happen. Then what? How did Lex know Superboy was out? Wait, better question. How did Lex know Superboy was out right when he needed him? Did they just plan every encounter they ever had? And worse yet, if the team just told everybody their secrets, the plan falls apart. Even better question. What are they doing there? What was the bad guys' plan? For considerations? For what? Did they just want a meeting? Why do you need the second generation for this? Oh my god. Nothing makes any sense. Also, Bane is dead, by the way. That electric shock should kill him. So I guess the character stuff is good. I like the detail that Aqualad doesn't flinch when he sees McGann's real form. I like the characters coming full circle, pay off their problems. We'll discuss this in a later video. We're nearly there, but wait, what if they just took the case to Star Labs? Then what happened? Oh god, why? Episode 26, Auld Acquaintance. Summary. We start off with Red Arrow on the run. Batman and Red Arrow head to the second generation to tell them that Red Arrow was the mole and was a clone. The team split into two, one that escaped from Black Canary and the others go after Red Tornado. Red Tornado and Red Arrow inform us what happened. Red Tornado, Black Canary, and Red Arrow come through the teleporter, but they seem to be under control, while the rest of the team is freed them with the chip, until all of them are freed, but because Vandal and the Witch Boy didn't do anything, they lose and leave. Everyone's happy at the end and hooray, whatever. Breakdown. I guess one noticeable problem is the fact that they didn't just mind control them right away, which is unbelievably stupid, but by far the worst thing about this episode is something that I consider to be a big issue. The mind control that the bad guys were using took them a whole season, like an entire season to do and make. So you think a cure to that would take a while too, you know? A mini arc, 2 episodes, 1 episodes, a couple scenes? Nope, all off screen. That is ridiculous. So that's not something that is okay for storytelling, especially in this scenario. This is actually another thing that becomes a big issue down the line with a show that is foreshadowing with it now. So yeah, I thought the ending was a bit disappointing. All the villains just didn't show up. In the fight, the Justice League were super nerfed. A good example of this would be Icon. Icon literally has every superpower known to man, and he goes down with one small fight. Honestly, I think the ending was just lame. Yeah, that's the word that I'd use. It just wasn't anything revealing other than Roy's twist, but even that felt out of nowhere. Everything about it just made it feel rushed. A good example of this is the Blackmail stuff. Normally stuff like this would be done through the season, but the Blackmail stuff comes out of nowhere towards the end. That's not what makes it inherently bad. It shows them the desperate sprinting towards the end in a hurry. The same thing happened in episode 6, Infiltrator, where I went over the arrow with Artemis. Other than that, there isn't much more to say.
I should have done this a long time ago.
No kidding.
Woo! Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for. That's what it's all about. Woo!
Payoff for the Blackmail. Let's briefly talk about the Blackmail stuff. The Blackmail stuff is a smart way to pay off certain character arcs and characters. Due to the show already setting up problems for the characters, coming clean is a good way to use growth. I mentioned before that this was rushed, which I do believe in. However, it's not bad. To me, it's good. It's a great way to give characters arcs in a quick and easy way, and all of these are paid off at the same time. So yes, the character work is good. To call it less would be a failing argument. While rushed, still good. The back and forth pacing. So let's talk about another important thing. I mentioned this throughout the video, but back and forth in the episodes is a huge issue. Let me remind you that episodes are around 20 minutes. That's not a lot of time, so diving off the path is not smart. A good example of this is Downtime and Coldhearted. The Chad, Coldhearted, solely focuses on Wally, and because of this, it's the best episode in the season. Downtime, I can't say the same about. Jumping around like a sugar-high 5-year-old isn't smart. Another example of this is Targets. It's so close to being a great episode, but with the stuff with Connor and Megan, literally has no place in anything. Anybody remember the Red Tornado subplot that went nowhere other than establishing Red Tornado's body that could easily take a minute? This is the main problem with Season 1. And it's definitely the same issue with Season 3. And the reason why it's not as bad as Season 2 is the Reach. The Reach were the main antagonist of the season, so anything around that was important. However, even though the light is in Season 1, the show still loves to get distracted with stupid side quests. And a little does this show know how it will become its Achilles heel. Comic book material to the show. I just want to mention something. This will be real quick. The show really isn't based off of anything. The original Young Justice group was different. But at times the show will use world building from the comics to carry over into the show. Other than the basics, Young Justice is mostly original. So does this affect the quality of the show? I'd say no. If anything, it makes it stronger. Comic fans tend to get blinded by the comics instead of looking at it at its own thing. Like I said, I just wanted to mention it. Okay, there we go. P2. Wally West. Let's talk about the best character. Wally sticks out with his charisma. Wally has a great personality, and this is shown clearly in the therapy scene, in which he's confronted with the reality that he was very upset about Artemis's death. But instead of choking up, he brushes it off completely. Black Canary even says, "Wally, you're in denial," and Wally replies with, "I'm cool with that." It's such a perfect line. Wally clearly has emotions for the teammates, but chooses to keep it secret. Why is a bit unknown. Maybe he'll seem weaker to the others, or maybe the Wally that we know is a persona that he plays just to enjoy other people's company. I think that's why Wally acts the way he acts, to try and seem cool around, cause he cares. But he does have one flaw. He has quite the ego, but this flaw works for the story. This all comes together in Coldhearted, in which the ego starts high, but over the course of the episode learns his lesson. It gives this character depth. I think Wally needs a bit more attention. Other than Coldhearted and Denial, Wally really doesn't get that much time, and with no secret as well. Wally's pretty underused as a character, but a great character all around. I love Wally.
The man who finally figured out that the sweetest birthday present a lucky stiff like me could ever get was seeing that little girl smile.
Superboy is a clone made from Superman with the maturity of a child. The reason I'm telling you this is that there are two ways you can go with this concept. One, at least the most popular, make him literally like a child, with bursts of anger, sadness, and happiness near back-to-back, like Titans did. Or have restrictive emotion only limiting to anger and confusion, due to not understanding himself, like Young Justice. So knowing that, we know that there is going to be a lot of storylines involving him being angry and not understanding things clearly. The reason why we're talking about Superboy now is that Enschooled and Terrors encapsulates this perfectly. His confusion as to why Superman won't open up to him, his confusion as to why he needs training, leading to anger of Superman, Black Canary, and everyone in general. This episode really episodes show his growth, that he needs to understand how to act and deal with his anger a bit better. This works because it's understandable, example, relatable, therefore understood. So it's simple to discuss. So this arc works for a lot of people, if not totally, and the arc itself having setups to pay off. None of it is off or doesn't make sense. All collects to Superboy being a good character, because the story understands what to do with these flaws and the overall character with added growth properly done. Superboy is one part that is great about the Young Justice main cast, but of course we need to move on to something pretty important about Superboy. Superman tells a lot about Superboy. Superboy has no parents and no figure to guide him. So the closest thing he has is Superman, so I don't need to run through why this is already good, but instead I want to take an observation in a bit of a different direction. That being, Superman was kind of character assassinated. I mentioned it before, but there is a relationship that says a lot about this character, meaning Superman shutting down Superboy multiple times is kind of really shitty. I know that's what the show is going for, but why? This reason isn't justified with anything other than him just looking like him. I know he saves people, but this is a direct contradiction to Superman as a character. He's supposed to be a protector and a hero, but here he kind of does a really terrible thing to do. He's a boy who's looking for answers, but you shut him down. At the end of the season, Superman finally reaches out to him, but that's only after Superboy saves the world. The show treats it as Superboy growing, but this is Superman kind of getting his head out of his ass just to reach out to Superboy. The reason why I'm mentioning this is because they force this fake sense of growth. They butchered Superman in a way that Superboy faked going through an arc. But as I've already stated, this isn't the case with the storyline. It hurts Superman and Superboy in the process. So something like that is supposed to prop up Superboy, ends up kind of damaging him. Having said that, he's still a good character. Everything else that he's done is well done. But again, the same issue with Aqualad. What did they do next?
Here's the ugly truth. I wasn't devastated. Even with Superman, Tornado, you, the whole League dead. Even though I didn't save Wolf, I watched Artemis and Kaldor die, and abandon McGann. I felt at peace. See, from the moment I first opened my eyes in that Cadmus pod, there's been one thing I've wanted and feared. To know what it is to be Superman. And I knew. So I was happy. Everyone I care about dead or traumatized, and I'm happy. How do I get past the guilt of that? How do I live with myself?
Aqualad. Kaldor is one of the few original characters in Season 1, nearly entirely replaced with Garth. Which, to be honest, I don't mind. If the show were called Teen Titans, you would have to be very strict on your expectations of what characters are and are not in the show. But due to the show being around the Young Justice, they are basically given freedom as to do what they want to. I know there is an actual group called the Young Justice, but I assure you they are very different. So having that in mind, Kaldor's backstory is interesting. Apparently, Aquaman was under some kind of great threat when Garth and Kaldor saved him. Garth did his own thing while Kaldor became Aqualad. It's good to explain what happened to Garth for people that are wondering. This also tells us that Kaldor is very skilled, which is very helpful considering he's the one who's leading the team. While this is quick, I think it's good world building and good for the background of Kaldor. I'd say the payoff for this new character so far is done well. He understands what has to be done and he does it. Kaldor is very simple and a straightforward character. This backstory basically reflects it. I think that's why the character mostly works, due to him being the backbone of the team, and him not telling anybody about the mole says a lot about his character. But honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he had a darker arc. Kaldor seems to have good intentions, but he's not overly compassionate to others. That's why I think the character is a bit hard to be believable. He is the leader and everything around that is kind of centered on that, which means once you take him out of that role, you will have to do a lot of writing in parts in his place. God, I hope they never do that. I know I'm foreshadowing a bit. The fact that this show points out multiple times that Robin is the next to lead is something that is waiting to shoot them in the foot. If you know what I mean. So we can't say this issue is future season's fault, but rather what was built from the ground up. And question, sir, isn't Kaldor gay? I mean, in season 3 and in the comics he's gay, yet in season 1 he's very straight, so I'll touch upon this when I talk about it in season 3, maybe, I don't know, but cool representation, there's that.
Decision. The decision is made. I am here. 100%.
Just in time for your next mission.
Miss Martian. Megan overall is a decent character. She's pretty simple and has a pretty simple personality trait. Her being childish is kind of her whole goal, so mistakes are common and her being innocent is kind of her thing. Nearly all the members of the second generation all reflect childishness, so let's skip to what you already know and get into the meat of it. Megan's arc is a bit off. I mean, when I mean off, I don't mean wrong, it's just like not on point. Her arc comes down to the fact that she's not who she says she is. Her coping with that lie through most of the season to turning a new leaf at the end. The problem with that arc is that it's not really as big as the other Blackmails. For example, Superboy and Artemis both have questionable bloodlines. If the team knows, this could lead to them getting kicked off the team permanently. But Megan is a shapeshifter. Appearance really doesn't matter, and Megan doesn't have any questionable ties to anyone. Plus, I doubt that even they know the difference between a white and green Martian. What does this reveal matter? So in the end, the character is not really that complex. It's just a bit too simple and a bit off, but she's not a home run, but she's alright.
That's right.
Now, my pretty. I know you don't want to do anything you'll regret.
You don't know me at all.
Robin in the show gets little to nothing to do here. Even though he is one of the main three, he has no purpose. There is no episode focusing on him. There is nothing this character does other than hack literally everything. But that's not a character. And yes, I know the main part of the character is the fact that he's impulsive and act on his own. But even then, the show doesn't do anything with this. The closest thing that happens to this is Drop Zone, where he becomes leader, but that barely puts any focus on Robin, and is just the teamwork arc. Nothing makes a difference if you switch anyone around in this position. They don't do anything with this idea for a character. He has no important part in the story. Why is this character here? Fuck it. This is also the problem with Season 2. In Season 2, we have a time jump, and in this time jump, Robin becomes Nightwing. We have no build-up for this. There is no arc. He's just the leader with no reason. Nothing from this character. I'm trying to watch Season 1, but Robin is nothing more than a husk of a character. He never has a big action. Remember the first episode where I talk about Speedy's big action? That never happens with Robin. Now, you don't need that for a character, but you need something in its place. How is it I know more about Red Arrow, a character that has way less screen time, yet I know more about him than Robin? How? I'm doing this because I like the character from the comics, but this character has childishness, and that's about it. To be fair, Robin does have a small purpose, and that would be the immaturity of the team. Not willing to work with others is kind of the thing that connects everyone. None of them really have worked in a team before other than their mentors. So Robin acting childish is his thing. However, this small purpose could be given to any other character. And I can say the same thing about Superboy. He shows a lot of immaturity. And so does Megan. So what's the point of Robin here? There are things to do with this character, yet for some reason they give him so little. So in the end we have a character that doesn't really change or develop. Now, the only argument to this is the performance episode, in which Robin is trying to prove his home circus innocent. Like I've already talked about with Wally, the whole episode is about this change and what really Wally is like, with no distractions. In this episode, Robin isn't solely on his own. His team and plot takes most of the time away from Dick, and in the end, Robin doesn't change or add to the character. On top of this, the only connection to a good story is the ringleader, but we've never seen him beforehand, so the impact is very low. All in all, this character from the comics is great, and the groundwork was there, but they simply didn't add anything to him.
Traumatized. I finally become leader and wind up sending all of my friends to their deaths. I know I did what I had to, but I hated it. When we started this team, I was desperate to be in charge. Not anymore. And that's not even the worst of it. You can't tell Batman.
Nothing leaves this room.
I always wanted, expected, to grow up and become him. And the hero bit, I'm still all in. But that thing inside of him, the thing that drives him to sacrifice everything for the sake of his mission, that's not me. I don't want to be the Batman anymore.
Red Arrow. Like I was saying, Red Arrow's motivation for doing what he does drives us. Also makes sense in this story, with side characters working with the main heroes. Somebody that bucks the system is the reality check. This also adds a layer of depth, giving to us more than just I'm the good guy, but rather I want to improve myself. This is relatable, but not why it works. It works because it gives us more than the typical. We can understand while also giving us something to be fascinated over. So the most important thing about this character is the plot twist. So the plot twist is the key part of his character. In fact, I'd say this show likes the idea of having characters based off of plot twists. For Miss M, Superboy, and Artemis, that's okay, because mostly it's okay for other characters. However, for Red Arrow, this breaks his character. How simple, it's a matter of a few things. One, screen time. Outside of this, the plot twist, there is little to go off of his character. Now, saying that, he has great individual scenes, like him quitting. This doesn't mean that this carries the whole way through. He has one episode to himself, but even then it flip-flops between other characters. Then, like I've mentioned earlier, we have characters designed from the core to prevail. But Red Arrow's twist kind of goes against that. It was all a lie meant to deceive us into liking this character. Every main character in this show gets a redemption arc and fulfills their arc. However, Red Arrow doesn't get this treatment. As soon as the twist is fulfilled, his arc doesn't finish. This is a massive problem for the character. The twist is supposed to strengthen the arc that the character has, but Red Arrow gets no such thing. Meaning, not only does he have a character at his core to prevail, that means nothing. Screen time that needs to be saved gets nothing. Even a payoff to the character to help him yet again gets nothing. For every main character there has to be 2 to 3 things, but Red Arrow doesn't. So that's how the character falls. He's set up to do something amazing, but only gets abandoned by the writers, only trying to fix it for the next season. And if you think they did him dirty this season, you've seen nothing yet. So Red Arrow's problems aren't as bad as they could be, but finishing his story would lead him to a much better character.
The team has my respect. I'm still getting used to this solo act stuff, but if you need me, I'll be there.
Artemis. Artemis is a bit unexpected from this show. She basically is the least trusted of the group, having ties to put her in a position that is completely comparable. However, she still sticks out. The handling of her character is mostly okay. For some reason, the writers really like her in this show. Like, a lot. And yeah, sure, you can say she's a new character, but Aqualad later on in the show gets no such treatment. So saying that, she's pretty protected. But not to the point where she's a Mary Sue. She clearly has flaws and doesn't get what she wants all the time. You might be wondering what her arc is. It's simple. It's built on the twist, yet again. Unlike Superboy and Miss M, Artemis' arc is tied to her character to such a degree that separating her from this twist is impossible. Her twist is to open up and tell the truth. Sounds simple, but is executed really well. Her whole background is rooted in not trusting people. To her parents and general attitude, meaning that overcoming this is a foundation for a good character. Now, I've clearly established the fact that from the ground up, she's good, saying that there are issues with this character. Where did this character come from? No, not the idea as in the show, I mean as in the plot. She appears out of nowhere with little explanation on how she got in the team. Where did Green Arrow find her? Does he know about her past? Why is Green Arrow lying about her family ties? This character out of the air is like me and your dad touching down in Fortnite. Why do characters show up randomly? Well, to be fair, they tried to do that with the arrow that saved Wally, but even that's not really fully explained. Other than that, she's a bit of a problem when it comes to her personality. Her personality seems to be sassy, but that's about it. Well, to be fair, she's much more than that, but the main issue for me is the fear thing that I don't think this show touched upon. And where she's alone and she has a breakdown of sorts. This happens once and it's never really brought up again. Not for the rest of the season, I'd say. A good point to make for and against this character is the theme of fear and loss. Artemis suffers from this time and again. Her part in the story is to see loved ones fall as she is still alive. This comes at a perfect time to mention that currently she is in an arc with Artemis that shows her same thing that I'm talking about in Season 4. Artemis becomes a character struggling with happiness. This character becomes so much more than her setup. I guess what I'm trying to say is even the best episodes with Artemis don't come close to what this character comes to down the line. This is why she's special. This is why this show loves her so much. So we come to the end. What is the takeaway for this character? The answer is that it's dropped out of nowhere. But once getting to a proper arc, it's okay and not great. Yet, somehow she will end up being one of the best characters in the show. One that should be shown off to show the skills of this show. She becomes more than just a simple tale of trust. But Season 1 sadly doesn't show this as much as I want to. At least not as good as Season 4. Conclusion. So, what is the final verdict? Where do I start? Oh, the choices. Does Young Justice deserve its status? That is a question that circles my mind. Because on one hand, I get the characters are very entertaining, but different characters have completely different qualities. Robin, Red Arrow, Zatanna, and Aqualad aren't as strong as the rest. And that's shown clearly throughout the show, while the other characters are much stronger. Saying that, I think that the answer is half and half. And even though I say that I think it's more complex than that, it differs on a case-by-case basis. So you ask, are the characters good? I'd mostly say yes. I think the best way to describe it is that it's good at the surface, but the deeper you go, the deeper you see problems. So what about the plot? Is it good? I mean, not much, no. I think the quality, yet again, differs time to time. Secrets, Downtime, and Drop Zone will make your head spin. It is painfully bad. But what about the good episodes? Does it make up for it? I'd say it's about even between the two, but the good episodes do weigh a bit more in favor. Does that mean that there aren't problems? Hell no. It's just average. So what's the antagonist like? Are they good? This isn't complex. Most of them are one note, but that does work as an unstoppable force through the show. And with that, they serve their purpose well, but not memorable, I'd say. So I come back to the question, does Young Justice deserve its status? To me, Season 1 has issues of misdirection and overall lack of polish. But there are moments that matter and make the show worth it. I do like most of these characters and some episodes are bangers. But saying that, the season isn't flawless or one of the best superhero shows. I disagree completely in saying that it deserves its status. For me, this show is like a 6 out of 10. I didn't feel overwhelmed, I didn't feel underwhelmed, I just felt whelmed. That doesn't mean this season is bad. I said this show has good moments of glory that sit near and dear to my heart, but overall the show is just barely above average.
Welcome,
ladies and gentlemen, to the end of the video. Sorry for the copyright shield being used a lot. The copyright for this video has been kind of insane. Even though I checked it multiple times, there's always a new one. My next video is going to be far bigger than this. My next video will be on DMC Devil May Cry, in which I will defend all, and I mean all, of its criticisms of the game. And you can only imagine how long that video will be. As for me, covering the next season is up to life, I guess. Season 2 is pretty great, and Season 3 is one of the worst things I've ever seen. And yes, I've seen most of the new season. The Season 4 is really kind of up and down. Some arcs are really great, others not so much. God only knows if I'm ever going to cover that. TV shows aren't really my thing, but I'm glad to step outside my comfort zone. As you can tell, I don't cover a lot of popular things, and I'm okay with that. I know it can get more views, but I don't want that. Anyway, hope you enjoy some of this DMC gameplay, and I'll see you next time, because next time will be something special.